Welcome back, everybody. Again, it's Tristan over at Element Wheels, and today we're going to be talking about some suspension components. Now, the suspension component that we're going to be discussing today is going to be lowering springs. Now, lowering springs tend to be one of the most affordable and easiest ways to lower your vehicle, but they do come with quite a few questions and maybe some misconceptions about them. Now, usually most people are going to ask us, is this going to ruin the ride quality of my vehicle? Is this going to destroy the ride quality of my vehicle? And that's the common misconception, and I'm here to tell you why. Okay, so I brought an Eibach lowering spring for a display item today. Now, these lowering springs work directly with your factory suspension components. So if you look at your factory suspension components, you'll notice that your factory strut already has a spring on it. Now, that spring will be removed and replaced with this lowering spring. Once the lowering spring is on there, you'll notice that the car will lower about a 1/2 inch to 2 1/4 inches. Now, let me tell you about the benefits of lowering your vehicle on lowering springs. Now, lowering springs, these are one of the hottest mods that you can do for your car, not only because they're affordable, but because they're also one of the fastest installing items. With average install times being under 3 hours, this is one of the fastest ways to make a noticeable difference on your vehicle. Now, the noticeable difference I'm talking about is how much the car gets lowered. Even though we're only talking about a 1/2 inch to 2 1/4 inch, at those heights, you're talking about a very noticeable difference on most vehicles. At 2 1/4 inches, you're eliminating almost all of that fender gap, all of that wheel gap that you're gonna see for a nice aggressive ride and an aggressive look. All right, now that we have this bad boy officially installed in your vehicle, we're gonna notice some things right away. We've officially repositioned the center of gravity. Now, whenever you reposition the center of gravity on a vehicle, you're gonna increase the downforce. Now, downforce helps in cornering, driving. It overall gives you a better ride quality. Now, one of the other things you're gonna notice right away is the decrease in body roll. Now, the decrease in body roll is gonna be from left to right as well as front to back. Now, the decrease in body roll from left to right, you'll notice in corners. The decrease in body roll from front to back, you'll notice on acceleration and deceleration. Now, we pointed out a lot of perks to having a set of lowering springs, but now let's talk about what the negatives are to owning a lowering spring. This lowering spring utilizes the factory strut or factory suspension components. Like I said, it is a shorter spring than factory, so that factory strut or factory suspension component does now have a shorter overall stroke because it does have to drop down in order to fit this spring properly. Now, shortening the stroke of the suspension does tend to give it a little bit of a stiffer ride. Now, that stiffer ride is noticeable to some, but not noticeable to everyone. It's also sometimes what someone's looking for, or like we were talking about earlier, why you would do a lowering spring. If you're looking to get that center of gravity lower, to decrease that body roll, that stiffness is going to help in doing both. Now, really the last and only real negative to lowering springs is some vehicles have certain factory adjustments like camber or caster. Now, whenever you install a lowering spring, you're always going to want to get an alignment after because it changes the suspension geometry. Now, whenever you change the suspension geometry, you always want to go get an alignment. Now, if you go to an alignment though, oftentimes some vehicles don't have factory adjustments like camber or caster. Now, in order to fix a problem like that, there is actually a solution. Companies like Eibach and other manufacturers sell camber or caster kits that will replace your factory pieces in order to make sure that suspension geometry stays close to factory or as close to factory as possible. That way you always have an even tread wear. Your tires are always going to be moving straight and staying in that same path like they were supposed to from the factory. All right, now we have officially come to the end of another video. Now, today we talked about the positive and negatives of going with lowering springs on your car. Now, this is an entry-level edition, but it is one of our favorite options and best go-to add-ons for a wheel and tire package. You really change the look of your car, you really change the performance. Like I said, if you have any other questions regarding lowering springs, please hit us up, reach out to us, call us, you know where to find us. We're definitely here to help. And like I mentioned before, if you have any interest in coilovers or air ride like we discussed earlier in this video, go ahead, like and subscribe. We'll be posting more videos about those options as well. Again, this is Tristan with Element Wheels. You guys have a blast. We'll see you guys again soon.